What if I told you that the reason you feel exhausted all the time isn't because you have too much to do, but because your mind refuses to stop carrying things that no longer belong to you? You carry yesterday's mistakes, tomorrow's fears, other people's opinions, conversations that ended years ago, problems that haven't even happened yet. And while your body is standing here in the present, your mind is living everywhere except here. But there was once a young man who traveled to the top of a mountain searching for the secret to inner peace. What he discovered there changed the way he lived forever. And by the end of this story, you may never look at your own thoughts the same way again. Once upon a time, in a small village surrounded by beautiful green hills, there lived a young man named Kenji. Kenji was kind. He was hardworking. He cared deeply about the people around him. But there was one thing that made his life difficult. His mind never stopped. From the moment he woke up in the morning, thoughts would begin rushing through his head. Did I make the right decision yesterday? What if I fail tomorrow? What do people think about me? What if something goes wrong? What if I had done things differently? His mind was constantly traveling backward and forward, but almost never staying where his body actually was. At night, Kenji would lie in bed exhausted. His body desperately wanted to rest, but his mind had other plans. One thought would appear, then another, then another. He would close his eyes and tell himself, "Stop thinking." But the moment he tried to stop, his thoughts became even louder. He remembered embarrassing moments from years ago. He imagined conversations that might happen tomorrow. He worried about things that had never happened. Sometimes he would stare at the ceiling for hours, wondering why peace seemed so easy for everyone else, and so impossible for him. One morning, an old traveler came through the village. The traveler spoke of a wise Zen Master who lived high on a distant mountain. People said the master had spent many years studying the human mind. People traveled great distances to sit with him. Some came because they were suffering. Some came because they were lost. Others simply wanted to understand how to live peacefully. Kenji listened carefully. Then he asked the traveler, "Does the master know how to empty the mind?" The traveler looked at him for a moment. Perhaps those two words were enough. The next morning, Kenji packed a small bag and began walking toward the mountain. The journey was long. At first, he was filled with excitement. He imagined meeting the master. Perhaps the master would give him a secret meditation technique. Perhaps he would teach him a special breathing exercise. Perhaps there was some ancient wisdom that would finally silence his thoughts. But after several hours of walking, his excitement began to disappear. His feet hurt. His shoulders were tired. The path became steep, and his thoughts returned. What if this is all a waste of time? What if the master can't help me? What if I climb all this way and discover that there is no answer? Kenji stopped. He looked toward the mountain. For a moment, he considered turning around, but something inside him whispered, "Keep going." So he continued. He walked through forests, across narrow paths, along streams, up steep rocky slopes, day after day, until finally, after many difficult days of travel, he reached the top. There, hidden among the trees, stood a small and peaceful temple. It wasn't grand. There were no magnificent buildings, no crowds, no noise, only the sound of birds, the wind moving through the trees, and water flowing somewhere nearby. Under an old tree sat the Zen Master. His eyes were closed, his breathing was slow, his body was completely still. Kenji approached him and bowed respectfully. "Master," he said. The old man opened his eyes. There was a gentle smile on his face. "Welcome," Kenji sat before him. "Master, I have come because my mind is restless." The master remained silent. Kenji continued. "I think too much. I worry about the past. I fear the future. I can't sleep peacefully. I can't enjoy the present." He took a deep breath. "Please teach me how to empty my mind," the master smiled. "Empty your mind," Kenji nodded. "Very well. I will teach you." The master stood and motioned for Kenji to follow him. They walked into a small courtyard. In the center was a large stone basin. It was filled completely with water. Beside it sat a tiny wooden bowl. The master picked up a ladle. He dipped it into the basin. Slowly he lifted it. Then he poured the water into the small bowl. He looked at Kenji. "Your task is simple. Empty the basin." Kenji looked at the large basin. Then he looked at the tiny bowl. "How?" The master pointed toward the water. "Transfer all of the water from the basin into this bowl." Kenji stared at him. "But master, the bowl is so small," the master smiled. "Begin." Kenji didn't understand, but he had traveled all this way, so he picked up the ladle. He scooped the water, lifted it carefully, and poured it into the bowl. Then he did it again, and again, and again. Minutes passed, then hours. The sun slowly moved across the sky. Kenji's arms became tired. His hands began to ache. But the basin still looked almost completely full. He became frustrated. "This is impossible." He scooped another ladle. Some water spilled onto the ground. He became even more frustrated. He tried again. Another scoop, another pour, another scoop, another pour, but the basin seemed endless. His breathing became faster. His shoulders became tense. His thoughts became louder. "I'll never finish. This is ridiculous. Why did the master give me such an impossible task? I came here looking for peace, and now I'm even more frustrated than before." Finally, Kenji dropped the ladle. He lowered his head. "Master," the Zen master walked toward him. He gently placed a hand on Kenji's shoulder. "Kenji," the young man looked up. "You are trying very hard to empty the basin." "Yes, master, but you have forgotten the first and most important step." Kenji looked confused. "What step?" The master pointed toward the water. "Before you can empty the basin, you must empty your mind." Kenji stared at him. "But how do I do that?" The master smiled. "You don't." Kenji looked puzzled. The master continued. "You don't force the mind to become empty. You simply stop filling it. Stop filling it with yesterday. Stop filling it with tomorrow. Stop filling it with fear. Stop filling it with frustration. Stop filling it with the need to finish." He pointed toward the ladle. "Your only task is to take the next scoop." Kenji looked at the ladle. "The next scoop, yes, not the entire basin, not the next hour, not tomorrow, just the next scoop." Kenji took a deep breath. He closed his eyes. For the first time, he stopped trying to control his thoughts. A thought appeared. He let it pass. Another thought appeared. He let that one pass too. He heard the wind. He heard the birds. He felt the sunlight against his skin. He felt the wooden handle of the ladle in his hand. Then he opened his eyes. He picked up the ladle. He took one scoop. Slowly, he lifted it. He watched the water move inside the ladle. Then he poured it into the bowl. He didn't think about how much water remained. He didn't think about how long the task would take. He didn't think about whether he would succeed. He simply took another scoop and poured another and poured. Something began to change. The basin hadn't become smaller. The bowl hadn't become larger. The task hadn't become easier. But Kenji had changed. He was no longer fighting the task. He was simply doing it. His breathing became slower. His shoulders relaxed. The noise inside his mind began to fade. He noticed the sound of the water, the gentle movement of the air, the warmth of the sunlight, the rhythm of his own breathing. Scoop, pour, scoop, pour. For the first time in years, Kenji wasn't thinking about yesterday. He wasn't worrying about tomorrow. He wasn't trying to control the outcome. He was simply there, present, completely present. Hours passed, but Kenji didn't notice. There was only the movement of his hands. Scoop, lift, pour, scoop, lift, pour. The work that had seemed impossible suddenly felt peaceful. His thoughts still appeared, but they no longer controlled him. A memory came, he let it go. A worry appeared, he let it go. A fear whispered, he let it go. And then he returned to the water. One scoop at a time. The Zen Master watched quietly. He knew Kenji was learning something that could never truly be taught through words. Peace does not mean having no thoughts. Peace means not allowing every thought to control you. Eventually, the basin began to reveal its bottom. There was less and less water. Kenji continued, one scoop, then another, until only a small amount remained. He carefully dipped the ladle into the basin. He lifted the final scoop. For a moment, he simply watched the sunlight shining through the clear water. Then he poured it into the bowl. The basin was empty. Kenji stared at it. He looked at the bowl, then he looked at the master. His eyes were filled with gratitude. Master, the Zen Master smiled. Now you understand, Kenji bowed, but you never taught me how to empty my mind. The master laughed softly. I did. You simply weren't ready to hear it. Kenji looked at him. The master continued. You believed that emptying the mind meant having no thoughts, but that is impossible. Thoughts will come, memories will come, worries will come, fear will come. That is the nature of being human. The secret is not to fight them. Let them come, let them go, and return to what is in front of you. When you walk, walk. When you eat, eat. When you listen, listen. When you work, work. When you rest, rest. Give yourself completely to the moment you are living. Kenji sat quietly. And suddenly, he understood. For years, he had been trying to solve tomorrow before tomorrow arrived. He had been trying to change yesterday, even though yesterday was already gone. He had spent his life trapped between two places, regretting the past and fearing the future. And because of that, he had missed the only moment he could actually live, the present. The master looked at him. Imagine your mind is a room. If you fill that room with yesterday's regrets and tomorrow's fears, where will you sit? Kenji said nothing. The master smiled. You don't need to throw away every thought. You simply need to stop inviting every thought to stay. Those words stayed with Kenji, and perhaps they are words we all need to hear. Because how often do we do exactly the same thing? We eat dinner, but our minds are at work. We work, but our minds are thinking about home. We lie in bed, but our minds are replaying yesterday. We spend time with people we love, but we're thinking about what might happen tomorrow. Our bodies are here, but our minds are somewhere else. And then we wonder why life feels like it is passing so quickly. The truth is, life isn't asking us to control every moment. It is asking us to experience the moment we are actually in. You don't need to solve your entire life today. You don't need to know exactly what tomorrow will bring. You don't need to understand why everything happened yesterday. Sometimes. You only need to take the next scoop, and pour, then take another, and pour one breath, one step, one moment at a time. When Kenji finally returned to his village, his friends noticed something different about him. He was quieter, but not because he had nothing to say. He listened more deeply. He smiled more easily. He no longer rushed through every task. When problems appeared, he still felt fear. When difficult things happened, he still experienced sadness. He was still human. But he had learned something important. He didn't have to become a prisoner of every thought that entered his mind. One evening, a friend asked him, "What happened to you on that mountain?" Kenji smiled. "I learned how to empty a basin." His friend laughed. "That's all," Kenji shook his head. "No, I learned that sometimes the basin isn't the problem. The problem is the mind we bring to it. And perhaps that is the lesson waiting for you too. Maybe your basin is your work. Maybe it is your family. Maybe it is your dreams. Maybe it is a difficult relationship. Maybe it is a decision you don't know how to make. Maybe it is simply your own mind. Whatever it is. Don't try to empty your entire life in one day. Don't carry tomorrow before it arrives. Don't keep reopening yesterday. Come back to what is in front of you. Take one breath, then another. Take one step, then another. Do the thing that is yours to do, and let the rest unfold in its own time. Because peace isn't always found by changing what is happening around you. Sometimes peace begins when you change the way you are present with what is happening. You don't have to silence every thought. You don't have to become someone who never worries. You don't have to escape to a mountain. You simply need to notice when your mind has wandered and gently bring it back to your breath, back to your body, back to your work, back to the person sitting in front of you, back to this moment, because this moment is the only place where your life is actually happening. The past is already a memory. The future is still a possibility, but this moment, this breath, this second is real. So the next time your mind feels overwhelmed, remember Kenji, remember the stone basin. Remember the small bowl, and remember the master's lesson. You don't have to empty your entire mind. You only have to stop carrying everything at once. Take the next scoop. Be present. Let go. And allow this moment to be enough. Scoop, pour, breathe, begin again. And if this story gave you even a moment of peace today, don't let it end here. Take one quiet breath before you continue with your day. Look around you. Notice where you are. Listen to the sounds around you. And remind yourself, I am here. I am present. I don't need to solve everything right now. If you found meaning in this story, subscribe to the channel for more stories about wisdom, mindfulness, inner peace, and the lessons that can quietly transform our lives. And if someone you know is struggling with an overthinking mind, share this story with them. Sometimes, a simple reminder is all someone needs. You don't have to carry everything today. Just take the next scoop and let the rest wait.